Welcome back to another episode of Junk with Junior. Sorry it's been a while. I haven't put a video up. Life's been really crazy and busy. Just haven't had time to do any of this fun tinkering around stuff like I normally do. And so here we are. We're going to get back at it. So we got my wife's 2022 Jeep behind us. Well, we used to have a 2017 Jeep JK. Unfortunately, had a heck of an accident with that Jeep. Thankful for the Jeep though, because it kept my family safe. It was a head-on collision. It was a real doozy of an accident. You know, wife and my son got a little beaten, banged up, but overall they were okay. No major injuries. Everything's good. Everybody's still here with us. Head-on accidents are scary. They're no joke, people. But here we are. We've got a brand new Jeep. So what are we going to do to this brand new Jeep? Well, unfortunately, it comes with plastic bumpers. And the previous Jeep we had was metal bumpers from the factory because it was a winter edition Jeep. And the metal bumpers were really nice. And after seeing how they weathered that accident, we're putting metal bumpers on this one. So I'm going to put a picture in here so you guys can see how bad the accident was. And plastic bumpers are going to go away. We've got brand new, genuine Mopar accessories bumper going on it here, not aftermarket. I looked at a lot of the aftermarket ones and they're okay, but I just really like the factory fit and finish of that stuff. Some of the factory accessories are hard to beat, and some of the aftermarket bumpers, they cost a little bit more, some are a little bit less, so overall it's kind of a wash, but you're not going to beat that factory fit and finish. So, a little bit about the Jeep here. It's not easy to find a new vehicle when you need one in the event of an accident. Wife and I had a very difficult time trying to find what we wanted. So we said the heck with it, let's just order one so we know we can get exactly what we want. If we're paying for it, we're going to get what we want. Problem is, we set up the date and everything with the dealership to go down and order the Jeep that we want with the accessories that we want. We go there on a Saturday and he says, well guys, I really hate to tell you this. This is after he comes back in the office from going to the guy's desk that orders the vehicles. He says, we can't order that 2022 Jeep anymore. You have to get a 2023. So we're like, good grief. Okay, let's just order a 23. Okay, no problem. So we go to the guy's office to order a 23 Jeep. Well, I'm really sorry, guys. You can only order the most basic Jeep there was at that time. This is the week that they discontinued 2022s and was going to 23. So just complete disaster trying to get a new vehicle, and all these add-on fees that dealerships were having, an extra $5,000 for a convenience charge, and you know, just because they have it they can charge you that much. No way. I'm not giving someone an extra $5,000 just because they're asking for it. Ain't gonna happen. Paying sticker price is bad enough, but if you want / need a vehicle like we did, you have to get one. Did we have to get a Jeep? No, but the way the last one handled the accident and we love the Jeep, that's what we're getting again. So here we are, 2022 Jeep. It's got wider Dana 44 axles in it. They stick out there quite a bit. It's got bigger tires from the factory. It's got fender flares, extensions from the factory. Get a little light here. So it's got these little extensions here to make it road legal. BF Goodrich all-terrain 315/70/17. Pretty beefy tire from the factory. We really liked the package on the Jeep. It just looks stout, tight and right. It's a Jeep. It's an aggressive machine. And, you know, all the work we did on the other one, you know, with the lift kit and stuff, you're essentially trying to get this same look. But this one came from the factory this way. So that day that we're at the dealership and everything fell apart trying to order one, we were just completely frustrated. We drove a couple hours to go to the dealership to get it, or to order it, excuse me, and didn't work out. Frustrated, we're getting ready to leave, and I said, you know what, let's just go walk around, take a look, make sure we're taking all this stuff in correctly, so that if or when we do order one, we know exactly what we want. We walk out back, and here it is, Jeep Beach Edition. So it's actually a high tide package with the bigger wheels, wider axles, LED lights, painted roof, comes with a Sunrider top as well. But this one is actually a beach Jeep. Well, Beach Jeep is, Jeep Beach is an event in Daytona, and in honor of that event, Jeep decided to name the first 500 of the High Tide package beaches. So there's only 500 of these dudes running around on the road, and we love it. Stingray, beautiful Jeep. But bumper's got to go. We got to get this metal one on here. Genuine Mopar accessory going on here. So that's enough riff-raff about the Jeep. We love it. You guys know that. I'm going to go ahead and get this factory bumper off here, get this metal one put back on, and we know it's going to be much safer in the future if anything were to happen. All right, so we're laying underneath the Jeep here, looking up at this bumper, and it has this plastic skid plate shield that's got a couple of 10mm head screws here that we're gonna have to take out, and then all along the front where it fastens to the bumper, it has these plastic rivet jobs. So, try to hold all this stuff where you can see it. I got the trusty old plastic clip pliers here, and they usually do a pretty good job. Get them up in here. Just like that. Okay, there we go. So we pull those rivets out, they're gonna look like that, and then we can reinstall them once we get that new bumper back on there. So I'm gonna go across there, get all those out, get the skid plate off, then we should be looking at the bolts so we can go ahead and pull the bumper off. All right, so I lied. These little screws that are up in here are actually an 8mm head, so we're gonna zip those out all across and get that shield out of the way. All right, so it's actually not bolts up in here, it's studs with nuts, 2 on each side of each frame rail, so a total of 4 on each side, 8 altogether. And I am able to get the impact up in here, and they're actually 19mm socket is what we're going to use. There we go. The top one I can't get to, I'm going to have to ratchet it. The impact's a little too big to fit in there, but we can make it happen. Just like that, it's off. So you got those 4 studs on each side, like I said, and I went to pull it off and it wasn't wanting to come off. Well, there's actually one of those plastic rivets on each side right there that holds this trim piece right there in that hole. So, you know, just like a filler there. Now, it does not appear, no, that's definitely does not have a place to go on the new metal bumper. So we're going to lose that one piece of trim, but that's just part of the design there from Mopar. Really easy to get off. Oh, and I did forget this little plug right here for the fog lights. The new bumper did come with the fog lights already in it also, and they are LED just like the factory ones that we took off. So no upgrade there on the lights, LED just like we had before, but dang, this bumper is so much nicer. That plastic thing doesn't weigh anything, and I just don't think there's any protection there if you were to get in an accident. Just this real thin piece of steel. Yeah. Little depressing for sure. It looks good on there. Didn't bolt it up yet, so we got a massive gap down here where that plastic fill piece was. So I don't think it's supposed to transfer over because, like I say, that bumper doesn't have the place for all these rivets along through here. So I'm gonna pull those out anyways and fasten it with the 2 on the frame rails and see how it looks, if it even fits in there right. Just because that's a big gap and I don't really care for it too much. So pull this off, let's see what it looks like. All right, so that looks better. It definitely takes up the gap. I'm not a huge fan of it though, I gotta admit here. Right along through here, you still got a gap, and this, you know, broke up 90 degrees to meet the factory plastic bumper. And, you know, we get this pretty close here as far as alignment on that hole. So I don't think this is correct. It'll work, it's decent, but I think we're gonna find out that the factory has a different option for that with this bumper. It's probably just a different filler panel there. For now, this is fine. It's only those couple rivets that hold it in, so I'm gonna go ahead and put that on and let it ride. But I'm gonna do some more research and get a hold of dealership tomorrow and see if we can find if there's a different part number for that, because I think there is. If so, I'll get it, pop those 2 rivets out and set the new one in there, and we're good. So no major change there other than appearance. So now that we've got that done, we'll put in those 2 rivets on there, temporary of course. Then we got to get our bumper brackets bolted up, get those 4 nuts back on. Well, shucks, can't win for losing. Hit another roadblock. The factory plastic splash guard, filler panel, whatever you want to call it, that goes underneath this bumper, it attached on here like so. Well, this bumper has a completely different profile, and it's a country mile away from fitting. It's not even a situation where you trim it or anything like that. So What are you gonna do some looking tomorrow online, see if I can find the part numbers and or get a hold of the dealership, see if they can assist me with the part numbers, and we'll get those ordered up. Then we can have the correct plastic filler piece on the bottom, and I'm sure there's going to be a different one for the top there, but we'll find out. So for now, metal bumper's on. It's good and secure, nothing to worry about there. I've got some more research to do, and we're going to wrap it up for tonight, but I'll get us some more parts. We'll get this thing finished up, and then we'll move on to the rear bumper. Back in the garage, we got the 2 missing pieces that we needed. I think that's the only 2 pieces we needed. So huge improvement over that factory stock bumper, like I was saying, and the shield air dam, as the dealership calls it, or excuse me, the online parts lookup. So the new one for this Rubicon style bumper is actually steel. So it's a really stout piece compared to that plastic that we did have, which makes me feel even better about this. So let's get under here and make sure I got all the right fasteners, and hopefully we can bolt this thing up. Well, the old plastic air dam had these 2 small screws on each side of this shield here that it mounted to, and it appears that this can stay in place and the new shield fit up under it, but then the bolt holes don't line up, so it tells me this part's incorrect. So let's take this off, and actually in the box there were these other 2 brackets. They're not labeled or anything, so obviously they're important, but I think once we get this out of the way and put that new air dam up here, then we'll be able to figure out how and where these go. Just like that, out of the way. Okay, so here we are on the passenger side, and I'm holding this air dam up here, skid plate if you will, like it would be in its position, and that new bracket's up here, so our holes down here on the bottom, they line up. So now I'm just gonna have to find some hardware to bolt that on there, because I didn't get the factory bolts for that bracket because I didn't realize we were gonna need them. So no big deal. Worst case scenario, I'll run to the hardware store, get some metric bolts, but at least we know everything does fit and lines up, so we can keep cruising on this project. All right, so it's definitely not factory hardware. I've got a couple 3/8 bolts through here. I stuck the bolts in from the inside of the frame rail, and the bolts are a little bit long for my likings, but it's all I've got here tonight, so I figured I might as well give it a shot. The only problem is you can't get a wrench to the head of the bolt to hold it while we tighten it. I think there would actually have been some nutserts installed on this frame from the factory if it would have had this bumper from the factory, but I don't have that option or luxury, so we're just gonna have to go for it. I'm gonna hit these bolts with an impact and see if we can get them to tighten up the way they are without holding a wrench on the inside. Fingers crossed, let's see if we get lucky. That side felt good. Let's see if we can get that lucky on the other side. All right, so I'm a one-man band. I can't do the best filming this stuff and working at the same time, but that bracket lines up with that skid plate right there. We got our bolt in. There's that other hole. I'm not sure what that's for. And then I got one started here in the front into the bumper itself to hold it all up, and I can go ahead and put the others in, tighten it up, and I'd have to say this skid plate is installed completely. So we got just one more piece, this plastic filler panel that goes on the top and has a couple less bends on it than the factory one for the plastic bumper, and this is just going to line right back up in those factory holes. We can reinstall our plastic rivets in there, and that's done. And this is just the factory rivet from the other piece that we're reusing. A little pin, whatever you guys like to call them. To me, it's a rivet. And we push the head of it down, and that's locked in. So that finishes it off nice. Much better looking Jeep than what we had before, and it has the protection of that steel bumper that we were looking for. That was the main goal. So front's all done. Feel really comfortable about it. Looks good. I know my wife's gonna like it, having a steel bumper after that accident she was in. It's a lot of security that comes along with that steel bumper instead of that rickety plastic thing from the factory. So that's gone. Looks better, safer, And if we ever want to put a winch on in the future, it has a provision for that too. We can just unbolt the plate on the top. So that's it for the front. We'll get this thing flipped around, see what kind of issues we run into on the back bumper. I have no idea if we're going to need extra hardware or anything after dealing with this on the front. Got a feeling the back might be a little easier. It's only one way to find out. So I had to go ahead and open the box for the rear bumper, and it's definitely quite a bit more finished out than the front bumper. It comes with the plastic end caps already installed. It has hardware, a backing plate with these nuts on it for a, you know, stick it in the frame kind of situation or something. I didn't read the instructions yet. Oh, by the way, this one actually comes with instructions, and it has these other brackets and the plastic filler panels that go on the end. So actually it looks like that goes to the inner wheel well. Whatever it is, I don't know. But why in the heck does the front bumper come with just the bumper, and then I have to order all that stuff separate? The rear bumper comes with all this extra stuff. So I don't know, a little bit confusing. Maybe I was supposed to get all that stuff with the front bumper and somebody messed up and I didn't. I don't know. I don't really have a way to prove anything on that other than just the part number. But even then, I still can't get my money back because I ordered the parts separate. So maybe I should have done a little more investigating on my end of what I, you know, had, what I received and what I was supposed to get. I don't know. Oh well. Problem solved. The front bumper is done. It's time to move on to the rear, like I said. And it appears that we have all the parts to make that one happen without having to go to the hardware store or order more parts from Mopar Direct. So I think we got lucky in the rear one so far, but we'll get this thing flipped around and see if we can get it on there. All right, so we got our Jeep flipped around. Sorry in advance for the noise. It's a rainy day here in Florida. We got some rain coming down on the metal roof, so it's gonna be a little bit noisy. I hope it's not too bad for you guys, but you know, I've got the day off work, so we're gonna get this bumper done. It's Hurricane Ian day here in Florida. You know, part of living in Florida, you got to be ready for this stuff. So, you know, it's not quite here yet. It's still down in South Florida. It'll be here this afternoon. But instead of me sitting in the house going crazy, I don't like, you know, just sitting around doing nothing. Go ahead and get this rear bumper on. So let's get this thing knocked out. So we're going to start with taking off these plastic filler panels. We got these like 8mm head screws here, 2 of those, and then there's a couple of those push buttons on top. So we're going to pull that filler panel out because the metal bumper does have a different one, and it also appears that our brackets are going to be different. I'm not sure if it's this bracket that's different or if it's this one right here. Once we get all this, you know, plastic and bumper stuff out of the way, then we can compare it to the other ones and see which ones we have to change. Then we can pull these nuts, and that should release the bumper, and I think these 2 long bolts that go all the way through the frame section here, and we should have this bumper off and we can compare it and see what else we have to do. Well, here we go again. I thought this was a fairly complete kit, and it is, for this rear bumper. It's not like the front when it was just the front bumper. So, a couple of unique things here. This is the factory plastic rear bumper. Just took it off. And it has these long bolts that come through the rear section, the crossmember of the frame, into here to hold it to the vehicle, because this would be facing, you know, the front of the vehicle. Got it rolled up here to make it easier. So then I'm looking at the new bumper. Well, gosh dang, it doesn't have that. It has this L bracket here with these rubber pads so it doesn't rub on the steel cross member, but it does have these tabs with a big hole in it. So, of course, this being more of a kit, it came with instructions. So I'm looking at these bolts that are going to go up through there, through the cross member on the frame. Well, minor problem. Let me show you under the truck here. So, according to the instructions, it goes in this hex-shaped hole right here. Well, what goes in that hex-shaped hole is like a pinch nut, a nut cert, if you will. You put the nut on the bolt, run it up through, push it through, and when you tighten it down, it crushes the nut to hold it in place, and that hex shape stops it from turning in the frame so you can tighten it up completely. I don't have those. Dang it, I don't know if they fell out of the box or what, so I'm gonna have to try to see if I can find some nuts to go with the bolts that came in the kit, and possibly I can fish the nut up in there and let it lay there like we did on the front section, and when I hit it with an impact, it'll spin it fast enough it'll hold in place, and we can tighten it up that way. We're gonna try it. I don't know, it's a little frustrating when these kits don't come with everything. It is nice to see that everything's made in Canada, you know, North American stuff, not overseas. But when you're missing one little piece like that, it makes this job quite a bit more difficult. So I started off working on the driver's side over here and got this new bracket put on here. That's the support bracket for the splash panel that goes up to meet with the fender well liner up here. So 16mm bolts here, and got those 2 nuts installed there that hold the bumper, to the Jeep. And then you've got 2 more bolts over here that hold that support bracket for the splash guard to the bumper. So now this side's ready to put that splash guard back on. We'll go to the other side, switch the bracket, and then gosh dang it, off to the hardware store. Well, no we're not, because they're probably closed. I'm going to do some scrounging around here and see if I can find something that we can make work in that bolt hole right there. So when installing these 2 rear bolts that go, pointing towards the, back bumper out the back of the Jeep, there's a plate that goes up in here with 2 nuts welded onto it to hold them in place. A 18mm ratchet wrench is going to be your best friend on these, because there's not a lot of room with the muffler there. So this is definitely the way to go. Okay, now with those ones being snugged down, it actually changes the alignment a little bit on this bolt hole out here. It's slightly misaligned, so whenever I do get the hardware to go in here, I'm going to have to loosen these 2 back up a little bit to let it flex out, so then I can tighten these and then kind of snug them all down together to make everything uniform. Okay, so I have a few of these extra nuts left over. They sent new nuts for the bumper studs out here, and I just reused the ones that I already had. So I've got 4 of these left over and 2 extra bolts that I didn't use because I did reuse some of the hardware. So I fish it up through that hole right there, and I can nudge it over with my finger, get my little pinky in there so I got a little more room. Now let me grab this other bolt, and very gently I can stick this up in there. I'm going to set the camera down for just a second. So I stick my pinky back up in there to hold that nut, and I can actually get this started. Now I can take this pry bar, stick it in from the other side of this hole, wedge down on that nut just a little bit, and I'm going to set the phone down here. I don't know if I'm going to lose the angle. Grab the impact, and just like that. Dang, did we get lucky. No nut cert necessary on that one. I love it when a plan comes together. May not be the funnest thing to ever take back off, but I don't plan on doing that ever. So we're good there. Let me double check these center 2 in the middle. Now that the outer ones are on. Here we go. Nice and solid. So the back bumper looks extremely similar to the factory plastic one. They did a good job on stamping out that steel. Looks nice. But that's a wrap there. Not the funnest install that I've ever done, but it's doable. Definitely takes some patience, just like anything else. I do wish the front would have came with all the hardware and everything that we needed. I'm glad that the rear came with everything that we needed except for those 2 nut certs. So what are you going to do? Sometimes you just got to improvise and make stuff happen. I couldn't justify ordering those nut certs from Mopar online and waiting on them again. I just wanted to get this project done while I've got a little extra time while we're waiting on this hurricane to blow in. Things aren't bad here yet, but we're going to go ahead and get this thing parked back in my wife's garage so it's out of the weather and ready to go just in case that storm does get pretty rough. But then if we do need it to get around, if we get any high waters or we need to pull some tree situation, Jeep's ready to go again. So thanks for watching Junk with Junior. Hope you all enjoyed it. We'll see you next time.